All right, so Sterling asks, he asked both of us here.
Yes.
Since you are old enough, he's calling us old, by the way. Since you are old enough to recall the days when arcades were pretty popular and prevalent, what games did you play or master, and how much would you spend in a day? Do you own copies of them on any consoles now?
Well, this is kind of a two-parter for me because I'm really old. So the first section of this is when before I even had a car, I would ride my bicycle, to the mall to play games.
Yes.
And at that point, I only had maybe like $5 tops in my pocket.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. The memory just came back where I used to collect cans to turn into for cash, because I lived in Oregon, and Oregon was one of those states where you could actually, bring your recycling and get money for it.
And bottles were better because same thing for me. Growing up in Mount Vernon, Skagit Valley, we had the same thing. Yeah. And beer bottles were like a penny, and pop bottles were 5 cents.
That's right. and our entire town was just cleared of streets of just like in bottles and cans. It was brilliant, right?
Yeah. So what was the question? Arcade stuff. So yeah, I would ride to the mall, which is about an hour ride for me, and have $3 or $5 in my pocket. So I'd spend $1 was spent on Cow Corner hamburgers. Now Cow Corner was like Dick's, but way back in the day, kind of independent.
Dick's is a Seattle restaurant chain, by the way, and not what you're thinking.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
because that'd be really cheap Dick's.
Yeah, Dick's for $1 in Mount Vernon. Huh? So anyway, so it was literally like $3, and $1 would be spent on 2 burgers and a soda. And then the other 2, I'd go to the arcade. And I'd have to decide between playing the games that were a quarter and the ones for a dime. Now the dime ones were kind of the old ones, like there'd be a bowling alley, had plastic pins, and you roll that one.
Oh, like, almost like a carnival.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the quarter ones were the good games, and so like Pac-Man and those kind of games we spent a quarter on.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Oh, and then the second half of that is when I had a car and go to the arcades is a little more. But I would spend, when I had money, like $10. Yeah. And my favorite games, I really got into the vector games. Okay. So Battlezone, I spent a lot of money in Battlezone.
Well, because it was the first 3D game, right? I mean, even though they were very simplistic, we didn't know at the time, but they were awesome.
Yeah. And then Red Baron was after that. Okay. Vector one. And then the one I really played a lot at the bowling alley was Tail Gunner.
Oh, I think I played that too.
Yeah, Tail Gunner, tail the ship, and you're shooting them, and you couldn't let them get past, basically. Huh. And those were the ones I really got into. And of course, Dragon's Lair, I put a lot of money in that.
Did you?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I was a lurker. I would watch that one, because that one's expensive. It's 50 cents, I believe, wasn't it?
No, it was a quarter. I'm older than you, so it was still a quarter. But, you spent a lot of money to get to the end. Yeah. And that was great, because it was a cartoon thing. So those were mine.
Okay, well, so I think for a lot of people, you need to remember that back then, you had the Atari, but the Atari is nothing compared to what arcades were. I mean,
no, not at all.
No, I mean, it was cool to be able to play some of those games, in your house, but again, it was just like going to the arcades was it. That's where all the innovation was happening. That's where all the really awesome games were.
And I think a great comparison for that, another vector game, is Asteroids. Oh. Asteroids and Asteroids 2, actually a sequel that was, I think, better than the original. But then, Atari 2600, I can play Asteroids at home, and it was so bad. Yeah,
it was flickery, like the Asteroids only went up and down. It wasn't nearly the same thing.
And speaking of which,
Space Rocks.
New version, Space Rocks of Asteroids on the Atari 2600.
So much better.
Yeah. So just they're that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, but as far as like arcade games that I loved, Miss Pac-Man, although occasionally people would tweak it to make Miss Pac-Man faster.
Yeah, I hated that.
I loved it.
Really?
Yes, and it's weird because I would get in the zone. Like literally, I was channeling some sort of like Pac-Man god. Like you could just, I'd see the whole thing and just like, I was amazing at it. But really? I don't know why.
Because I know people that, because they had the patterns you could get. Yeah. And it's a pattern. People could do it basically without looking because the machine had a pattern, apparently. Yeah.
So there's Miss Pac-Man. I also really like Frogger. I don't know why. It's just one of those games, kind of like Tetris. It's like, it's just so simple. Anybody can play it. It's super fun.
Yeah, I never got into Frogger, but that's one I do have on my main machine.
Yeah, and actually I do too over here. So, and I believe I hold the high score. Okay. So,
and there's a new one on Xbox 360, which is built on Unity. Really? Yeah.
Oh,
I downloaded it.
Is it top-down still?
It's top-down, but it's got all kinds of new stuff and all kinds of challenges to it. It's kind of cool. I haven't gotten into it yet.
So one of the another game I also really loved was Time Pilot.
Time Pilot, yes, God, I'm having flashbacks now.
Yeah, I know, that was such a really fun game. Again, a kind of unusual shooter where you go through time, and yeah, so awesome. The other thing I was thinking about too, though, is that I went to an arcade kind of at the end of Arcade's life, and do you remember they had, I think it was Hang On, where it was a motorcycle game, but it was an actual motorcycle you'd sit on.
And you'd lean it over.
Yes.
Yes, love that.
Dude, that was so awesome.
Played that one to death at Shakey's Pizza in Mount Vernon.
See, for me, I had Bears Arcade in Oak Harbor.
Bears?
And you know, another thing that's interesting about that time is that I'd go there all the time after school, but they actually had slot cars in the back.
Really? Like actual slot cars?
Yeah. So slot cars, for those of you who don't know, is that's what my dad actually grew up on. So when I was young, he had the slot cars. So,
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. So slot cars were big. They were actually like about this size, and they had like tires and engines and all this really cool stuff. And my dad was super into it. And then but in the 80s, do you remember that they had like the little slot cars? You know?
I used to have a whole set that I set up in my basement, and I set a whole track up, and I would like do things like set fire pits, a little lighter fluid, and I was actually setting them on fire and driving them around.
This does not surprise me.
Yeah, but there are people that are still into it now.
I believe it.
In fact, here in Seattle, in West Seattle, there used to be a place right on the Ave that had a huge track laid out, and they built it on wood, but they used like copper flat woven wire.
No, is it the small ones?
Both. They have both sides.
Oh, okay.
They have the little ones, and then they have the big full size ones.
Huh.
So there's people that are still really into this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about arcades is that, again, it's a social thing. You go there'd be like, you'd be able to get food, junk food and stuff like that. You went after school, and even if I didn't have any money, I would hang out just to watch my friends play.
Yeah.
And, another one, Spy Hunter, which is a game I wasn't really necessarily that good at, but again...
Oh, dude, it was the music.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you would change into a boat, it was awesome. Yeah, and then you drive up into the
truck to get the weapons. Yeah, it was cool.
Dude, so many great memories. I love that. So, on my main arcade cab, I actually have most of the ones I care about, just because it's not the same thing, but it's close enough.
Right. Right, and the thing is that it's nice to have the MAME arcade thing, but there's something about pumping quarters into it. Yeah. Because there's a tension. You can't just keep hitting the button to do it over and over again. So you had to get good at it. Yeah,
that's true.
And you're spending money, so you had this limited window in order to actually have fun, and then to get good at the game.
And that's why actually Dragon's Lair, I never went there because that game looks so tough. And I remember it was more, I forget, because I was like in the 4th grade or 5th grade whenever that came out, but I remember it being too expensive for me to even like, whoa, I'm not even touching that.
It was a coin eater.
It was a coin eater, but you're right that it was like stunning. Like the the Don Bluth graphics or animation was killer.
Yeah, and then if you get behind somebody who is really good at it, you could just watch the whole cartoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is really good. In fact, there was one guy, I don't remember his name, but he got really good at it, and I watched him, and I got good at it, and the goal was to get through without dying. And then in the last scene, you would deliberately die twice. And then get it on your last one, because that got maximum points. There's maximum points you could get.
Interesting.
But there's only a max, because if you did it perfectly. But if you did it perfectly all the way in and didn't die, there was 2 rounds of points you were missing.
Oh, interesting.
Right to the very last thing. So you'd deliberately screw up the very last one.
Okay, and speaking of Dragon's Lair, I really liked Space Ace. Because again, it was in space. It also had multiple paths.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. I didn't get into it.
And I've learned to like it now more, because when you get it on like newer versions of it, like I have it on the iPad, and literally you can change the difficulty, so it gives you more time to react, and so you can actually kind of casually play the game and sort of watch the video. It's really cool. But anyways, we'd love to know what you guys think. What are your memories of arcades if you went to one? Love to know down in the comments.
Oh yes,
yes.
And what did you do? And who did you pick up? Did you ever pick up somebody in an arcade and make it worth your while? I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
like pick them up, like date?
Yeah, pick them up and date. Did you ever go to a date in an arcade? Because if you did, I hope you married that person.
That was a keeper.
Yes, definitely.
All right, great question.
Thanks a lot, guys.
This question was asked by one of my Patreon contributors who also helps support my YouTube channel and videos. I want to thank you very much. In addition to being able to ask me questions like this in a private message board, you also get early access to all of my videos and some other really cool perks. If you're interested in checking that out, please go to patreon.com/MetalJesusRocks.